Sometime in the deep hush of a winter forest, Clara Dawson burst into the clearing like a woman chased by ghosts, her breath ragged, her boots sinking into snow that swallowed every sound. Behind her, a battered hatchback idled weakly, steam curling from its hood as if exhausted from the long flight across state lines. The cabin stood ahead, leaning, weather-worn, its windows clouded with frost. But to Clara it felt like the last remaining place in the world that might still recognize her. Liam, her 10-year-old son, clung to her sleeve, shivering beneath layers too thin for the cold, his stuffed fox tucked against his chest. The trees loomed tall around them, ancient and unmoved, yet somehow watching with quiet patience. Clara felt the weight of every mile she'd driven, every night spent sheltering behind gas stations, every fear she kept hidden for Liam's sake. But as she stepped onto the creaking porch and turned the cold metal knob, the door gave way with a groan, as though the house itself took one long breath and whispered, "You came back." Inside, the dim light caught drifting dust and peeling wallpaper, memories folded into every shadow. And for the first time in months, Clara felt the faintest flicker of something she thought she'd lost forever: hope. The cabin breathed old stories as Liam wandered in behind her, his eyes wide with equal parts curiosity and caution. Their footsteps echoed softly across wooden floors softened by time, their shadows stretching toward a crooked photograph on the far wall. Her grandmother Ruth, standing with a resolute half-smile that seemed carved from the same stubbornness Clara felt burning inside herself. The fire pit in the corner still held charred remnants of long-forgotten nights, as though the cabin had paused in the middle of a memory and waited 2 decades for her return. Clara's fingers trembled as she brushed dust from the shelves, discovering cans arranged neatly as if stored just yesterday, blankets folded with meticulous care, and the unmistakable scent of cedar that still lingered in the walls. Liam touched the old stove and whispered, "Can this be home?" The question struck her like a wind she wasn't prepared for. She glanced at the broken panes, the sagging beams, the creeping vines, but none of it mattered. Safety didn't always look pretty. Sometimes it simply stood when everything else had fallen. She knelt beside him, pulled him close, and in a voice barely above a breath answered, "For now, it's ours." That night, as a reluctant fire cracked to life, shadows danced gently along the walls, revealing a wooden box tucked into a dusty shelf, one Clara didn't remember from childhood. Its lid resisted for a moment before surrendering with a faint pop, releasing the scent of time sealed away. Inside lay a letter tied with twine and an old iron key cold as the winter outside. Clara unfolded the paper carefully, her grandmother's looping handwriting spilling secrets she never expected to inherit. Follow the creek when the sun rises. What you find there will tell you what comes next. The firelight flickered against her face, illuminating the conflict brewing inside her. Liam slept curled near the hearth, his small chest rising and falling in soft rhythms, Rusty, the stray dog who'd adopted them, lying watchfully beside him. The forest outside hummed with the quiet voice of winter, but Clara felt something deeper in the air, something old and unfinished. She traced the key with her thumb, its edges worn smooth by hands she once trusted. This place wasn't just shelter. It was a message, a summons, a promise. And whether she was ready or not, the land was calling her back into a story she'd never known she was part of. Morning arrived cloaked in pale light, fog lifting slowly over the trees as if the world were waking with caution. Clara laced Liam into his jacket, tucked the key and the letter into her pocket, and followed the murmur of the creek winding through frost-coated pines. The air tasted clean, sharp, full of unanswered questions. Liam walked ahead with the stuffed fox peeking from his backpack, Rusty trotting at his side with tail stiff in alertness. When the forest finally opened into a hidden clearing, a small workshop sagged beneath vines and moss, its roof bowed with years yet still standing. Inside, dust spiraled through shafts of sunlight falling like quiet blessings. Tools hung untouched, cobwebs stitched the corners, and at the center of a wooden table rested a carved chest bearing her grandmother's initials. The key fit perfectly. Inside, Clara found envelopes tied with faded ribbon, a leather-bound journal filled with stories of the land, and letters describing men who had once come seeking something more valuable than money. A deed, maps, secrets buried to protect the land. The deeper she read, the more she understood. Her grandmother hadn't left notes, she had left warnings. The forest didn't just remember, it waited. The truth struck like a bolt of cold fear when Clara noticed footprints near the creek, too large to be hers, too old to be recent, yet unmistakably human. That evening, as dusk swallowed the clearing and the fire warmed the cabin with its fragile glow, a shadow moved between the trees. Rusty growled softly, ears tilted toward the window. Clara extinguished the lamp and pressed close to the glass, seeing only fragments of dark fabric slipping between pines. The forest grew unnaturally still. Someone was out there watching. She read through the journal again, finding a hand-drawn map marked with a bold X, North Clearing where the land breathes. Something important was buried there, something precious enough for Ruth to protect at all costs. Clara barely slept, her hand gripping the iron key beneath her pillow. When dawn crept in, she and Liam followed the map to the North Clearing. Beneath a mound of earth, they uncovered a buried crate filled with deeds, official papers, and proof that Ruth owned every acre. Proof someone wanted badly enough to chase a family off their land. But before Clara could take it all in, a man stepped from the mist. A stranger claiming to know her grandmother, his smile thin and intentions sharp. He warned her not to dig up what was meant to stay buried. Then he disappeared, leaving the cold behind him like a warning shot. That night, flashlights pierced the fog outside the cabin. 2, maybe 3, voices drifting through the trees with dangerous certainty. Clara's pulse hammered as she grabbed Liam, Rusty, and every document she could, slipping out the back door into the frozen dark. Snow muffled their footsteps as they ran toward the spring by the creek, the secret heart of the land Ruth had written about. When the flashlights neared, she made a choice born from instinct and blood, a choice her grandmother had once made too. She dropped the sealed box of deeds into the spring's deepest point, watching it sink into silence. Some truths weren't meant for thieves. They were meant for guardians. Escape became survival as they fled through the forest, hiding among shadows until the lights faded and the night grew quiet again. Only when dawn broke did Clara feel her heart slow. She held Liam close and whispered, "We will be safe, I swear it." And for the first time, she believed herself. In the days that followed, Clara discovered a note hidden deep within Ruth's journal, a direction to a law office in Milltown, a place where trusted hands could restore what time and fear had nearly stolen. The roads were icy, the journey long, but hope warmed her from the inside as she drove. At Parker and Hale, an aging attorney recognized Ruth's name immediately. He revealed that Ruth had placed the land in Clara's name years earlier, but the records had never been filed. Together, they signed the documents that made the inheritance legal and untouchable. When Clara returned to the cabin that evening, snow shimmering beneath the headlights, something inside her finally settled. The land was theirs, protected, rooted, permanent. Liam ran ahead and wrapped his arms around her waist. "So we can stay?" he asked, eyes bright as fresh snow. Clara looked at the cabin glowing against the winter dusk, at the smoke rising like a quiet promise, and answered with a steady smile, "We're home." The days that followed unfolded like a life rediscovered. Mother and son repaired the roof, sealed the windows, swept out years of dust, and filled the cabin with warmth and laughter that felt long overdue. Rusty patrolled the yard like a proud guardian, his tail thumping in approval as they built a leaning snowman Liam named Henry, the cabin's new sentinel. At night they read Ruth's journal by the fire, learning the stories of the land, the love that built it, and the legacy passed down to them like a lantern in the dark. On the fifth morning, sunlight washed over the clearing in golden waves. Clara stepped outside with Liam's hand in hers, feeling for the first time in years, stillness instead of fear, roots instead of restlessness. "Mom," Liam whispered as snowflakes danced quietly through the air, "are we happy now?" She looked at him, at the cabin, at the forest that had once felt like a stranger but now felt like a guardian, and answered softly, "Yes, we are." If you felt this story settling somewhere deep inside you, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you never miss another story like this one. Your support keeps these voices alive, keeps these journeys unfolding, and keeps this community growing. And before you go, where are you listening from, and what time is it where you are right now?